So I'd like to welcome everybody to the second Vegan Health and Fitness podcast. We are recording at Loscampeonestempe. Again, we have the gym owner, Ryan Nelson, and our guest is Dr. Ben.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this is our second one here, and Dr. Ben, he got us started out on our first episode talking to me a little bit about how I got started, and now it's my turn to ask Dr. Ben what he's got going on, how we met each other, and this goofy style of chiropractic that he does. So, Dr. Ben, tell me a little bit about you, dude. I know a lot about you, I feel like, but maybe I can learn something new here too. I know you moved out here from California. I think you were already practicing some chiropractic at that time. You were.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I feel like you were in Texas because I know you were working out at Bone Breakers Gym. But I feel like you're doing something different out there. Like you were an engineer. But I can't remember. So maybe you can just start it from the top for us and tell us a little bit about how you got started on your journey and the chiropractic, the vegan thing, and everything in between.
Sure. So, real quick backstory. Grew up in Massachusetts and lived out there. Also went to college in the Northeast in Pennsylvania. And then when I was about 22, like a year after college, I moved down to Austin. I had an engineering degree, got a job working at this computer chip company, and was just basically doing that, living in Austin,
So when is this? When are you living in Austin? Like 2005, 2010?
I moved there in 2004.
Okay.
And then, maybe like 2005, started dating this girl who was vegetarian. And I was like, oh, I can get on board with that. That's cool. And just basically did like the junk food vegetarian thing for like 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so from like a health perspective, how was the junk food vegetarian lifestyle for you?
I thought I was doing a good thing. I thought avoiding meat, and avoiding like, Whataburger, which is a fast food chain out there, McDonald's, that kind of stuff, that I was like way ahead of the game. And so I thought from a health perspective, like I was way ahead of everybody else, And so it was kind of funny. I just, was basically on a steady diet of like pizza and burritos and like takeout Vietnamese food. And I was always lean my whole life, so I thought, it'll never affect me. But I was eating, a lot of processed soy, a lot of like, processed flour and just, stuff that I know now is really not health food.
So like a few years goes by and you're like, hey, maybe this junk food vegetarian lifestyle, I don't know, is it affecting my health? Like, what's going on? Did you have some health stuff come up, or what's up?
I did, and I did not think my diet had anything to do with it at first, because that wasn't in my sphere of influence. I was just basically, like, I started to run into issues with chronic fatigue, brain fog. My digestion got very terrible, and I think that was the main motivator for me to like start changing things up. Like you said, you had that girlfriend who had very severe digestive issues. I had very severe digestive issues, and I had other stuff going on like eczema. But when you're a young guy in your late 20s, you start to have health problems. You don't really do anything about it for a while until like the water really starts boiling you, like the heat gets turned up and you're like, yeah, whatever, I'm fine, but like it started to get with the digestion where I was just like, after a lot of meals, I would be in like 9 out of 10 pain. Like just.
You were like grabbing your gut, like curled up in a ball, or like running to the bathroom, or like all of the above.
Yeah.
So you're like, dude, I gotta start doing like these green smoothies or green juices or eat a salad or something. Well,
yeah. I mean, I didn't do anything about it initially. I just like took like different medications like Pepto-Bismol, and I was like, oh, maybe there's dairy's a problem, so I'll just take Lactaid.
Were you having a lot of dairy as a vegetarian?
Yeah, probably, because I was eating, less meat. So it was like you go to a Mexican restaurant, what do you get? You get cheese enchiladas, and they're just like coated in cheese, right? So
cheese pizza.
Yeah. I mean, I in my mind, I wasn't going out of my way to eat a lot of dairy. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I need to eat dairy because I'm not eating meat. It was just like, because that's your other option, right? You know, I was living in Texas. You know, I was amazed I was a vegetarian there, right? Yeah. So in the beginning, I was just like, I would buy like the stuff that like was like the Amy's, like, you know, dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free mac and cheese, you know, hoping that like it would make me feel better, and it kind of didn't, you know. And but I was really just like desperate to get this digestion thing fixed, and I was going to these doctors, and they were just like, you know, take the Pepto-Bismol. Like, they weren't really giving me any answers to anything. And so I was just sort of forced to figure it out on my own. And, you know, I was like I said, a lot of processed food, and I wasn't really like cooking anything at home or anything like that. So I had this mentality of like, I don't want to learn how to cook. I don't want to learn how to prepare my own food. Like, that's just not something I'm going to do. So I had this mentality of like, okay, well, maybe I can't cook my own stuff, but like if I make smoothies, like if I just throw stuff in the blender, that'll be kind of like microwaving food, right? Like,
keep it easy.
Yeah. Like it's a blender and a microwave work the same way. Like, you open it up, you throw the food in there, you close the door, you hit the button, and, you know, 60 seconds later, you got your food, right? So it was something I was willing to do. And that's when, you know, my health really started to change. When I started, like...
So the smoothie thing's working out for you. The gluten-free, soy-free, mac and cheese, vegan, it's not working out. But you figured something out with the smoothies.
Yeah,
and what was going into these smoothies?
In the beginning, you know, whatever was in the fridge, you know. So I was like, you know, it would be like, you know, some broccoli and a few pears and like a habanero pepper that was hanging out, and like just whatever, you know, it was like was a fruit or a vegetable was getting blended together, and like hopefully it tasted okay. And there was definitely in the smoothies where I was like holding the nose and knocking it back, right? And so I kind of get to a point where I'm like, man, you know, because the Amy's gluten-free mac, you know, soy-free, dairy-free mac and cheese was like, it was kind of doing its job, but it didn't really feel like a whole lot better. Like, I realized like that wasn't going to cut it. Like, I needed more, you know? And so the smoothies, you know, it was good, and I wasn't having trouble with the digestion when I was eating them, but there was like a taste problem. And I was like, man, you know, maybe I should like look up some recipes or kind of figure out what to do, because just throwing whatever I have in the fridge in the blender like isn't always like getting me something that tastes good. And that was kind of where I fell down the rabbit hole. You go on YouTube, this is like late 2010, searching smoothie recipes, you know, you're just gonna stumble on like a treasure trove.
Durian Rider comes up.
Yeah, Dan McDonald, all this stuff comes up, and I just get engrossed in it, and I'm just like, you know, buying a whole bunch of produce at the store, and like getting into like the concept of a raw food diet, and just like feeling better. And so like the digestion improves, but all these other things I didn't expect to improve get better. Like the brain fog goes away, the energy goes through the roof, the eczema on my hands, I had this weird rash in my hands, just went away. And
what is this, like a month or 6 months, or like how long are you doing these smoothies before you're like, dude, I'm feeling better?
I mean, I was feeling better after just like a few days or a few weeks, but I think it was really like 2 to 3 months in was when I really saw, like, sort of took a step back and was like, oh my God, like all these things have transformed in my health. You know, this is way more
There's
powerful.
There's something to this.
Yeah.
At this point, you're like, dude, I'm doing this for a reason.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really catalyzed that was I was working out at this gym. It was like a personal training studio, and my trainer would track all my numbers, you know, as far as like weight, they would check your body fat percentage, and they would look at all your lifts to see like what your strength to weight ratio was, and like how making sure you were progressing, right? And so that they would have objective data to be able to show you to show that you're getting better, and they could continue to sell you on getting more personal training, right? They want to show you're getting results. You do that with your clients.
I do it.
Like you want to show them, like, hey, you're losing fat and gaining muscle.
The data. You got to show them the data. It's working.
Yeah. So they're doing that, and this lady, Cindy, sits me down. She's like, Ben, like, something weird's going on with you. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, your body fat's down super low. Your lifts just keep going better and better. Like, all your numbers, like, you are like our number one client at this gym. Like, what are you doing? Like, you must be like eating healthier or something's going on, right?
And what do you tell them?
And so I'm like, oh, funny you should ask, right? Like, allow me to jump on my soapbox. I'm like, well, I'm doing this, plant-based diet. I'm just doing like a lot of raw fruits and vegetables, a lot of smoothies and green juice. And like, I'm feeling the best I've ever felt. And like, that's so cool that like my fitness is going along with it. That was just like confirmation more for me. And she, it was like record scratch. Like, wait, what? You're doing what? Because I found out later that this gym was like a big time like paleo gym when all the owners were like really into the paleo.
You're like the black vegan sheep.
Yeah, totally. And she's like, well, you can't be doing that because where are you going to get your protein?
Where are you getting your protein, bro?
But I'm like, I've been doing this for like 3 months, and you said I have the best results of like anybody who works out here. Like, is it the anecdotal evidence? Like, isn't that enough to convince you? But anyway, they didn't quite get it, but I just kept working out there and kept
getting the gains.
Yeah, kept getting the gains.
So you're in Texas, you're in Austin, Texas, you're pumping up vegan, you're an engineer still at this point.
Yeah.
And sometime after this, you're like, dude, I got my health back. Like, do I want to do this engineering stuff anymore, or do I want to show other people how to get healthier? Where does that come in?
Good question. So this was, the journey started about late 2010. By 2011, I went vegan, initially for health reasons. But then as I researched into it and learned more about it, like, you just kind of can't help but get hit, sideways by all the ethical information and in the environmental information. Like, I was always considered myself a big environmentalist, So, yeah, I was, the trifecta at that point, right? Or it's like the 3 main reasons people go vegan is like, animals, environment, and health. And then, in some cases, a 4th one, punk rock, which I wasn't really privy to. But, the main 3 I was in there for, right? So it's like, so at this point I'm like 2011. That was the year I turned 30. And shortly after that, like at the beginning of 2012, I'd been vegan for like a year, and my now ex-wife, we separated and later divorced, and that really like made, and right, I just turned 30, and it was just like that made me really reevaluate my life. Like, okay, I was in this relationship that I thought was like that didn't work out. Like, what? And also like, I had this whole diet and lifestyle for most of my life that kind of didn't work out, that got me sick. That changed. Like, a lot of my reality had been turned upside down, and I realized that like the way things wasn't so, and I had this new perspective on things, and it made me reevaluate like, okay, what am I doing with my life? And I knew that I never really liked the engineering thing. Like, yeah, it made good money. I worked at this great company. We had an office downtown, like right next to City Hall, like right on the Colorado River. Like,
it was a good life.
It was a really good life. Yeah. But I knew that like I don't want to keep doing this when I'm 50. I'm 30 at this point. Like, even I don't want to do this when I'm 40.
Yeah.
And so, and like weird stuff happened at the job where like, like we were this microchip company, and we were really crushing it. And I remember like one time I was sitting in a meeting, and what we would do was we would do these forecast meetings where we would figure out from the marketing guys like what the demand was for the from the customers for the microchips, and then we would try to figure out how to like get all the supply and basically like build it in the factories. Right, and so you gotta figure it out right, because if you build the wrong microchips, you can't sell them. That's wasted money. So you want to do it efficient, right? So we would have these meetings where the marketing guys would sit with the sales guys, would sit with the factory guys, and we figured out what we need to build. And that was kind of my job. And so, like, we're sitting in the meeting, we're waiting for the marketing guys to come in, and they're like, "Oh man, we just got back from Beijing. We had a meeting with one of our main customers out there, and they said that this chip that we're selling, they're going to start using it in this blood sugar monitor for people with diabetes. And the good news is, everybody, that the diabetes market is exploding. Okay, so we're gonna make this chip. We designed it back in 1999. We can manufacture it for like 7 cents. We're gonna sell it to these guys for like 80 cents. We're gonna just make money hand over fist, and like diabetes is gonna be like we're gonna
capitalize on
right?
these people's illness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we thought we were doing a good. Everybody thought they were doing a good thing, right? Like a blood sugar monitor, like basically like a little machine you stab yourself with it, you put some blood in it, it tells you your blood sugar level, right? So everybody's thinking like, oh, this is good. You know, diabetes is going to be a bigger problem.
It's not such a bad thing
we
anymore.
got a solution.
Like, people can have diabetes.
Yeah.
And they can check their blood sugar.
Yeah. Like, we're not contributing to the problem, but at the same time, we don't really have a solution that fixes it, but we have a way to make
accepting it as a normal thing.
Yeah. And I know at this point, type 2 diabetes can be reversed on a plant-based diet. Like, you know, all these people out there doing the Western medicine thing, they're getting put on metformin, they're getting put on insulin, whatever. And I know now that that's basically a sham, that like it's an inferior solution. If you just want to do medication, you can never reverse the diet. Eat a plant-based diet, or you can never reverse the condition. You eat a plant-based diet, you can reverse type 2 diabetes. No need to prick your finger every day, right? And so I'm just like watching this go down, and everyone's like so excited. Oh, we're gonna make so much money. We're gonna help so many people. Like, oh my God, you guys, don't you know? Like, you can reverse diabetes. And so that was like a real catalyst to make me realize, like, I'm never gonna be able to convince anybody here of anything that's like interferes with them us making money, right? Like, I'm not gonna have an influence here, and I need to get out of this and do something else before I get too old to, or, you know, just like I got to do something new soon, because the longer I'm here, the more I'm be stuck in it.
So I always think it's interesting to like take a look at people's journeys, especially on this more plant-based vegan lifestyle. When people are doing something and make this transition in their nutrition, how then they position and align themselves as far as career-wise goes afterwards. And it seems like, you know, to some senses, like my story and your story alike, aligning yourself more with the person you would like to see in yourself and in the world. You're taking these steps now from being an engineer in a job that you felt like wasn't contributing to the better of our maybe city, state, country, world, and now you're taking a step in a different direction. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's very easy to get caught up in, you know, the sort of self-congratulatory narrative that you have at one of these companies. Oh, we're innovating all this stuff. Like, we're making these, you know, we're making money selling modem chips into TVs in Japan. Like, I had stopped watching TV at that point. So yeah, there is this desire to, like, you realize, like, oh, I think everybody knows to some degree that the world's pretty messed up. But when you get introduced to plant-based diet, to veganism, and you realize that, like, how much of a solution it is, it's not a panacea. It's not going to solve every problem, but it's going to greatly contribute to bettering things like world hunger, inequality, the environment, like so many things, right? That you're just like, this needs to get out there. And so for me, I kind of thought, you know, hey, when I had all these health problems and I was going to these doctors and just basically getting the runaround and no answers, like, made me think, like, I'm actually, you know, I'm pretty smart. Like, I didn't go to medical school or anything, but, like, I know science pretty well. Like, if I took the time and really studied, like, and I went into practice, I would know way more than these guys, and I could help a heck of a lot more people. And I kind of wanted to be that guy that was there for people like me that I didn't have back, 10 years ago, 9 years ago when I got sick. And so that's when I just sort of realized, like, man, who else is going to step up and do it? Like, nobody, right? And so so I was in Texas, and I thought, at first I thought I wanted to go to naturopathic school because that would be like, I didn't want to do drugs or surgery. Like, I knew that wasn't something I wanted to not do those things. Like, I didn't want to offer people that because I knew just that those weren't the best options for getting people well from chronic disease. So I looked into it, and I was like, oh, well, you're in Texas. Naturopathy, becoming a naturopathic doctor isn't really an option because they're not licensed in Texas. Like, you could do it, but you wouldn't really have a lot of scope and of practice of what you could actually do. So so I thought, next bet, I could just go be a chiropractor. Like, why not? I could basically function as a de facto naturopath and just do that. And, irony, of course, being I never came back to Texas. I went to school in L.A. and then wound up in Arizona, where naturopaths have, like, the best scope of any state in the country as far as, like, what they can do. But I wouldn't have had it any other way. Like, I'm glad certain things happened along the way that I'm like, man, I'm really glad I'm doing chiropractic, and I'm glad, not that there's anything wrong with being a naturopathic doctor. Some of my best buddies, some of my best colleagues are naturopathic doctors, and I think I get along better with naturopaths than I do other chiropractors a lot of the time. But I'm really glad that I'm doing what I'm doing now. So
Okay, so you're out in LA.
Yeah.
And you're going to school out there, and they're like, this is how you do it. You thrust hard into their back, and you snap their necks and cash their checks.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to go around, and I'm going to wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, chiropractic, boom, 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 make the money, help these people out, maybe give them some nutrition guidance. I'm vegan at this point, and do my thing. And then you told me you stumble into this guy, and he brings you to a clinic.
Well, sure, let's back it up. Because,
okay, back it up a little bit.
Because, it wasn't really like, in my mind, I was like, okay, I got to learn all this adjusting stuff because, like, it's chiropractic's cool, and that's what I got to do to pass the board. And maybe I'll do a little bit of it here and there when I'm out in the field, but, like, really I don't care too much,
Okay.
But a series of events happened that changed my mind on that. And the school was very much like, it was so medically oriented. Like, they really were actually pretty anti-chiropractic and pretty anti-natural healing, and it was more like, let's prepare you to kind of look and talk and act like a medical doctor and know the names of all these obscure diseases and be able to refer things to other medical doctors. But, like, don't get too invested in chiropractic because, like, people won't accept you. Like, medical doctors won't accept you. So I was pretty annoyed by that. I was like, yeah, whatever.
Okay.
But I was kind of always on my own schedule with things. And so, I was eating like 100% raw vegan when I was living in LA in school. And I was just like, I was
loving the Asian markets.
The Asian markets, the wholesale markets, the foraging. It was awesome.
You're happy, healthy, vegan Ben chiropractor in Los Angeles.
Yeah. And so I was kind of doing that. And it was like New Year's Eve 2015. One of my dogs dies. So maybe my dog Tuesday will show up in some of the camera shots, but he had a younger sister named Chloe who unexplainedly passed away on New Year's Eve. And it sucked. Like, let's be honest.
It's a bummer.
It's a bummer, but it was like, I'm in school, I got the first board exam coming up, I gotta put my game face on and just kind of forget about it. And like later a few months later, I meet this dude who comes to my school and gives a talk, and he wasn't vegan or anything. I was very skeptical of almost anybody, especially people who were like not healthy looking, to give me any sort of advice on like how to practice, what to do with patients, how to run a business, any of that. Like, I was just very like, if you don't look the part, like, I don't want to listen. But this dude, I could tell he was onto something, and so I met him. I was like, can I get your business card? Can I just come shadow your office one day? And it wasn't until like a little while later that I came and shadowed his office and was kind of like, the way he did things was not like anything I had seen before.
It was pretty different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so in your head, you're like, this is good or this is not good?
I was just sort of like, this is weird, but I'm just like, I'm here for the day. it was in West Hollywood, and I was living in about an hour away or more. So I'm like, hey, I drove all this way, like I'm going to stick it out for the day and just kind of see what happens and like just take it all with a grain of salt, but not dismiss anything either at the same time. And so you got to understand, like, at the school clinic where I was at, it was all Medicare patients, like all these old people. And I was not used to the clientele they had, which was like Hollywood people. Like they had like pro skateboarders and like paparazzis and like actors and actresses were like who this guy serviced, So that was kind of weird. And then he was doing this like light touch thing with people that didn't really make any sense. Like he would just barely touch them with his thumb, like just do that on them, and some of them would like move and flap around, and everybody seemed to love it. And I thought like, okay, this is kind of weird.
So it's not cracking backs and bending arms. It's lightly touching them.
He was doing a little bit of the traditional stuff, but what I didn't know was at the time he had just sort of, in the past few years, learned this new technique and was like integrating it in and was like transitioning over. But and now he does mostly that, but at the time it was sort of 50-50. And so end of the day rolls around, and he's like, okay, well, Ben, why don't you get on the table? I'll work on you, just kind of show you how this all works. And I've been there all day and seen all this crazy stuff go down, and I'm like, dude, you know what? I'm good. I think I got adjusted at school yesterday, like in lab, by one of my other students who was probably like cranking on me way too hard. And like, I'm good. I don't need it. And he's like, Ben, come on, you drove all this way, like you spent the whole day here. I'm guessing you probably think it's bullshit. So what you can do is you can get on the table and then see what happens. And if nothing happens, then at least you can be vindicated in your own beliefs and know that it was bullshit and drive away and not have to wonder, But like, you wouldn't want to just like leave now and always wonder like, what if you tried it? Like, you have to think about that. Like, that would just kind of be rough, right?
So I got you.
He got me big time. I was like, okay, all right, throw it at me, like, let's see what happens. I don't know, and as soon as he touches me the first time, like, feel like my sacrum, like my low back wants to just move, right? And then my body's wanting to like release tension, which he told me would happen. Like, basically I would touch you in a certain way and then your body would want to release tension as opposed to me forcing the tension out of you. So I start to move and he does a few more, and then all of a sudden, like, these memories of my dog dying, they start flooding back, like just like in the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure when they're in the toll booth and they're like phone booth and like shooting through time. It's like memories are like coming back at me, right?
And this was stuff you didn't really deal with.
The stuff I didn't, suppressed emotions, grief, because I never really cried too much about my dog. Like, maybe a few tears here and there, but I kind of knew. I was like, I should probably be grieving more, but like, it's school and I got to put my game face on and I got to be tough. So like, whatever, I'll deal with it later, which is put it in the back of my mind, right? Which is, what's the back of your mind? Well, it's your spine, okay? So the trauma was stored within my system, and this basically released it. It all came flooding back. I was like bawling on the table, and I'm still like moving, and I'm like, like crying, but like moving on the table. And I'm still going, and I get up, and he's like looking at me like, not with like a smug look, but like an understanding look of like, I see this stuff all the time because this is the work that I do. And we kind of had a conversation about my dog and everything, and I guess I didn't explain that also. At the beginning of the year, I had started this online training program. I was training with this dude who's like this vegan calisthenics guy. I don't even know if he's still around, but his name was Callus Vegix, and he's based out of South Africa. And he wrote me this training plan, and I was doing it, but I started getting this problem with my shoulders would hurt when I was doing pull-ups. So I kind of had to ditch the training plan. And it was weird. I would have this shoulder pain only when I did pull-ups. And I went to like the school clinic, and they were like doing all these orthopedic exams on my shoulder and like doing an ultrasound and like lasers and all this stuff to try to fix the shoulder problem. And it never got any better. And I got really frustrated. No one could diagnose what was wrong with it. And anyway, the next day after this guy, Dr. George, had worked on me, I went to go do a pull-up on the bar, and it was like the shoulder. It was like nothing was ever wrong with the shoulders to begin with. Like totally, the shoulder problem went away.
So the treatment then, the next day, you were like, dude, this is a movement that's been hurting me, but now doesn't hurt me.
Yeah.
Whatever he did yesterday was pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think it took me like a few more days to really put the pieces together. To really like accept like everything that had happened, because it was pretty, I mean, what I'm describing I was not prepared for. So it took a little while to put the pieces together. Like, wow, okay, like I just had this, this weird unexplained shoulder problem that went away. There's all this trapped grief in my body. Like I didn't really believe that like emotions could be stored in the body, or that like, physical work on someone's body could like release emotion. Like I'd heard of stories like that, but I didn't really believe it was true. And then I experienced it firsthand. I'm like, oh, guess they were right. Like, oh.
So then what? So then you're like, well, now I know what kind of chiropractic I want to do.
Yeah, well, I was like, I guess I got to go learn this stuff. I was still skeptical, but I was like, I'm going to go learn it, So I took a seminar, and then I was pretty much... Yeah, I was pretty much hooked on that by that point. When they told me that they did a study of people who it's called network spinal is the name of it. That people who went under care with network spinal, they studied all these health parameters, not just like how good their backs were feeling, but like how they felt about their life, how their relationships were, all these other parameters, like were they smoking. And they looked at like before and after, and these people changes in these people's lives, and people quit smoking, started exercising, started doing yoga, ate healthier was another, like people ate healthier because they went under this type of care. I was like, oh, well, this is what I need to be doing, because like if I can touch somebody's back with my thumbs and it makes them eat healthier, like I don't know of any other thing out there that, does that to people. So that's the thing I need to learn to do. So, yeah.
So you start down this networking, chiropractic, soft touch theory.
Yeah.
And then Bone Breaker hits you up. What happens where you're like, no more California, I'm coming to Arizona? What's going on there?
So, okay. So that explains that needs to explain something. So early before I'd found network in school, Dr. Goldhammer had come to my school to give a talk. And if you don't know who he is, he runs the True North Health Center in Santa Rosa, California, Northern California. It's a vegan, plant-based diet and fasting center.
Okay.
And if you watch the movie What the Health, a lot of the transformation stories take place there. A lot of the doctors who are interviewed work there. And so my dream was to like intern there and get a job there. So I move up there. I do like my whole last semester at chiropractic school counts as just interning there. And I'm like, studying under Dr. Clapper. He's making the other interns cry. I'm seeing crazy people do like 40-day water fast, reverse like, autoimmune disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, people things I probably shouldn't even say on recording of like what I saw, because people wouldn't believe me.
And Santa Rosa, just to
Yeah.
make sure, like, is Santa Rosa, like, that's up in San Fran Bay Area kind of?
Santa Rosa is about an hour north of San Francisco.
Okay.
So it's like
you're
wine
living
country.
in Northern California.
Yeah.
And you're doing like some interning, last little bit of chiropractic school stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the plan was like get a job there and just do my thing. But I kind of also knew, I was like, man, I really want to do network and they won't be cool with it there. And so I kind of knew that the writing was on the wall, that I wouldn't get a job. So I was kind of bummed to still find out that I didn't get a job there. So I kind of just was like, oh, I'm going to bootstrap it in the Bay Area, try to start my own practice. And like, it was just brutal up there. Like the cost of living's so high, So eventually I'm like, I hate it here. I need to get out of here. And Bone Breaker was like, hey, well, why don't you come down to Phoenix? We got a good vegan fitness community. it'd be a much better place for you. So I'm like, let's give it a shot, So then a year and a half later, here I am.
Yeah, dude. I remember meeting you, and we talked about this in the first episode of the mutual friend of ours, Bonebreaker, and setting up the trade for personal training and chiropractic. And, I'd been around a lot of chiropractic before that. And Bonebreaker kind of saying, like, this is a little bit different style of chiropractic. And I was like, okay, I'm open to different. And then you got into town.
Yeah.
And we met each other right away.
Yeah.
And we started the trade.
Yeah. And I remember just thinking, like, man, here goes nothing on this guy. Like, he's like 6'2", 240 pounds, or 6'4", 240 pounds, like giant. Okay, he's vegan. He might be into some things that are not so mainstream or kind of strange.
He's
but
gonna be
like,
open-minded.
He's going to be open-minded, but like, I really don't know if he's going to be down with this, right?
Because you got to be really open-minded.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like pretty open-minded stuff. So, yeah, I remember, I'll let you talk here, Ben, but I remember laying down on the table the first time, and you're like, okay, there's not going to be any big adjustments or anything. We're just going to like scan you over and kind of see what's going on. And then, yeah, I started noticing some significant changes, pretty in tune, in the tensions in my body.
I mean, I just remember like working on you and being like, hey, he's going to get off that table. And, like a lot of people, I've worked on people who are skeptical, and then they get up and they're like, whoa, I wasn't really expecting anything at all to happen. But I'm thinking, I still have people who are like, I didn't really feel anything. So when you got up off the table and you're like, dude, whoa, I was like, all right, yes.
Yeah.
Here we go. So what did you feel that first time I worked on you?
Yeah, I just kind of felt like, okay, well, he's doing some good stuff here, and how I can feel my body like naturally moving into alignment. And he's doing this thing where he keeps checking my feet. And it seems like when he grabbed them when we started, and when he grabbed them here when we're finishing up, there's a lot less tension in my feet. And I'm asking him, dude, what's up with, like, you keep looking at, you keep checking my feet, dude. Like, what's up? What are you doing there? Because I wanted to know. And he's like, okay, well, that's where I check the tension at. And I'm putting it together, and I'm like, okay, every time we meet up, he's checking the tensions, and I'm checking the tensions. And when we finish up, I got a lot less tension in my feet. So what's that doing in my body physically, and what's that doing in my body mentally? And I'm like, we're doing this trade here in a couple months, 3 months goes by, and like my life is, it's going good. Like we're just getting into Phoenix, both of us kind of, but like things are starting to happen a little bit. And in the first episode we mentioned, like, got the gym going, things started going the right direction there, body's feeling good, and good things just keep happening in my life. So I keep seeing Dr. Ben here, and I'm really digging what he's doing. Started introducing him to some of my clients. And then, Dr. Ben, you're in Phoenix here, you're getting going. What's going on when you get to Phoenix here? I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but I know we were both doing the same job for a while.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when I first got here, it takes a while to get licensed in a state, right? Like I had my California license, had to get re-licensed in Arizona. That's, through a state agency, it takes time. So I'm driving Lyft. We were doing like landscaping jobs. We were just hustling, trying to make cash,
You guys were together?
Yeah. And so, but yeah, it was like I got you into driving Lyft, and that's how you sort of stumbled across this gym that you found, right? That eventually became this gym that we're at now.
Yep, and I know, like, same boat. We're both just moving here. We're doing our best to establish ourselves. We're both driving Lyft and starting to kind of get an idea of what we want to do in this city and what we want to build. And we're kind of small talking about, what we can do as individuals and as a team to help this community out and to show people this vegan lifestyle. And so we're going down this road of trading each other, and I get the gym, and Dr. Ben starts practicing here in town when he gets his license and building up his clientele. And it's been a year now since basically,
over a year
for both of us,
Yeah.
around a year that we've both been like pretty committed to what we're doing and have dropped the lift driving out. And I feel like both of us are really in alignment now, and we're happy to have Ron here with us today, Vegan Health and Fitness Magazine, sitting down for this second podcast episode.
So like a year and a half ago, you were both doing lift and landscaping.
Yeah.
That happened quick. All this has happened quick. Do you think that when you're like living with a healthy mindset and trying to get better and trying to do good, that you make room in your life for good things to happen to you?
Yeah, I would say so. You definitely have to have a positive mindset, and you have to be able to like think outside yourself of like, okay, because it can be very easy to be like, I want to do this because I want people to like me or accept me, or I want to be successful, but like, what is that success? Well, ultimately, when you're in a job or you're in a career that's all about service, whether it's helping, basically for both of us, helping people with their health and fitness, like you really have to be thinking about who you're servicing and have your outcomes for them in mind. Because if you're only thinking about yourself, you're just going to run around in circles.
Yeah, I think for both of us, it really came back to that like alignment of, helping others, and in doing that, being able to do something bigger than us and for the greater cause. And I know Ben kind of spoke on some of the reasonings, like the animals, the environment, the health. And when it comes down to it, I think both of us, the same reasons there, those three reasons, really stand out for all of us. And it's beyond either one of us. It's for the greater cause. And I think when we made those decisions to really align the career path that we both have chose, that it's for us to best serve others, and it's far beyond us. And over the last year and a half, that transformation has really happened so fast because it's something that is very deep into our heart and that we're very passionate about. And I think that's why we've both been very successful in getting to where we have and being able to help a lot of people in the community and outside the community.
It's a beautiful thing to witness.
Yeah, it's good. I know you've been able to witness it a little bit yourself, Ron.
Yeah, past few months getting to know you guys, I just see people gravitate towards both of you, and they like that positive energy that you're putting out, and they like that your message is making the community better.
Example is the best form of activism, So it's like, do we get involved in other forms of activism? Heck yeah, I've done my fair share of, the Cube of Truth and disruptions with direct action everywhere, and visit farm sanctuaries. But I feel like both of us, given our talents and abilities and educations and experience, like we can offer things sort of unique that no one else can, and I feel like we have an obligation to do those things, whether it's like practicing as a chiropractor or running a gym or whatever it is. It's like that's how we can best serve, and so we're under some degree of obligation to everybody to do that.
I agree.
It's been great talking with you guys.
Awesome, sweet.
Awesome.
I am looking forward to episode number 3.
Episode number 3.
Okay, yeah, we gotta start hitting some people up and getting them on the show.
Yeah, let's get that out there to all of our social media followers, what you want to see on the up-and-coming Vegan Health and Fitness podcast here with Ron Ferguson and Dr. Ben and myself. Ron, you want to sign us off?
I hope everybody out there listening or watching keeps an open mind, and when they experience this episode, that they're left with some really cool things to look into. Please subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date on our videos. If you are not already subscribed to our magazine, you'll find the link to do so in this video's description.